Good evening. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and I'm pleased to welcome you here to tonight's Brighton Town Board meeting, October 13, 2021. In a moment, we will begin the open forum portion of our meeting when members of the public will have the opportunity to share their comments with the town board. On Monday, we celebrated an Indigenous Peoples Day here in Brighton. And in just a moment, I will be reading the proclamation that we adopted that day. But I would also like to publicly acknowledge that while we are meeting remotely tonight, the town of Brighton is situated on the ancestral and traditional lands of the Onondaga tribe of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, which we recognize and respect as the traditional custodians of this land throughout the generations. We pay our respect to Onondaga elders, past and present. The history, culture, and traditions of the Onondaga are worthy of our understanding and our study, and we praise those who keep their traditions alive. We recognize that that study is of ongoing importance if we are to truly understand the history of our community and our nation. And we support efforts to ensure that we and future generations continue that study and that respect in a way that is honest and truthful, so that in the words of Sacagawea, we may always work together to brighten the chain of friendship. As I said, in a minute, we'll be going into the open forum. Those of you who are watching and are going to want to speak are in the waiting room, in the Zoom waiting room. As we conduct this meetings remotely, we will continue our ASL interpreters, tonight, Allie and Heather. As a reminder, the agenda for tonight's meeting, as well as all the materials we're looking at in making our decisions during the meeting, are available on the town webpage. Now, I would ask you to rise if you are able. I'll lead the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Couple things I want to start with. First, I want to update the community, particularly our West Brighton residents, on the status of fire service going forward in West Brighton. As most of you know, the Rochester Fire Department has been providing fire service in West Brighton since August 2012. Their service has been excellent, and I want to commend the RFD for their diligent work protecting our community. The town's contract with the Rochester Fire Department expires at the end of 2021. And earlier this year, the town board voted to solicit proposals for fire service so that we could consider how that service could be provided in the most cost-effective and professional manner possible. 4 agencies responded to our request for proposals: the Rochester Fire Department, the Brighton Fire Department, Brighton Fire District, the Gates Fire District, and the Henrietta Fire District. The town board reviewed the proposals and heard presentations before making the decision to accept the proposal from the Henrietta Fire District. Under this proposal, the Henrietta Fire District will expand into the territory currently served under the West Brighton Fire Protection District, effectively merging that fire protection district into the Henrietta Fire District. Following that merger, or that extension of the Henrietta Fire District into West Brighton, the tax rate for properties in the current West Brighton Fire Protection District will decrease by nearly 10% in 2022. Firefighters will continue to serve in the West Henrietta Road Firehouse 24/7, although there may be some situations in the very short term early in this new contract term that career firefighters, I'm sorry, not the new contract term, following the extension, that career firefighters may not be in the firehouse because the Henrietta Fire District is currently in the process of hiring new career firefighters to meet their staffing needs. These are difficult times for hiring people, but I know they are making every effort to get them on board before January 1st. I look forward to working with our Fire Marshal, Chris Roth, and the Henrietta and Rochester Fire Departments to make this a smooth transition and to see continued excellent and cost-effective fire service provided in West Brighton. Next, briefly, I want to remind everybody that the deadline for commenting on the Canal Corporation's tree clear cutting plan, along which trees along the canal embankment will be essentially clear cut, are due this Friday, commenting on the seeker review of that plan. Not only will the town be commenting under seeker, but we have and we will continue to communicate with our state elected officials and with Governor Hochul. We believe this plan will not make the canal safer. In fact, what it will do is hurt the environment, animal habitat, and it will cut into the economic benefits of tourism that the canal provides across upstate New York if trees are clear cut from the embankments. As we've said before, there is no documented evidence that there has ever been an Erie Canal embankment failure due to trees. There have been embankment failures due to human activities. And frankly, it's counterintuitive that instead of letting those trees grow, spot checking as needed to make sure that there are no minor leaks in the canal so that they can be addressed, that the state would cut down all those trees using heavy equipment and potentially impacting those embankments. So I encourage everyone here tonight, whatever your beliefs are about this canal clear cutting, to send your thoughts to the state, preferably by Friday, so that they will be considered under the state's seeker review. Those comments should go to the link on the Canal Corporation webpage, and that is at canals.ny.gov. There's also time to complete the town's community survey on recreation programming and a potential new community center for Brighton. That survey is available online on the town's webpage at www.townofbrighton.org/rec, R-E-C. It's also available on the town's recreation department Facebook page. We want your input. We want to make sure we're reaching a diverse cross-section of our community in doing so. The survey is also available in our lobby. We had a great response filling out the survey at the farmers market a couple weeks ago. But again, very easy to fill it out right online. Now, finally, last night, I had the great pleasure of attending a meeting of the Monroe County Legislature, where Brighton resident and long time, I'm not going to say how long, but we'll just say long time, Brighton ambulance volunteer, Michael Pollack, was honored with a proclamation from the county legislature, recognizing his decades of service, not only to Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, but also to other EMS organizations and providers, including the country's first and only all-women's Orthodox Jewish volunteer ambulance corps in Brooklyn. It was there to see Michael recognized in person by the legislature, and I congratulate Michael Pollack, and I thank you, Michael, for all of your years of service to the people of the town of Brighton and beyond. Okay, we'll now begin the open forum portion of our meeting, which we hold at the beginning of every town board meeting. You will be admitted from the Zoom waiting room individually by the host if you raise your hand to speak. All speakers should limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and I will give you a 30-second warning before your time expires. Our goal here tonight, during the open forum that we hold at every town board meeting, is to give you the opportunity to share your thoughts with the board and for us to be able to listen to your words. Therefore, please direct your remarks to the town board and not to other speakers. Please refrain from personal attacks and from outbursts during the open forum out of respect for the speakers and for the time of everyone here tonight. Now, I would also note that we will be holding public hearings on 3 budget-related matters. So if you're here and you would like to speak on the budget, you'll have the opportunity to do so during those public hearings. And if you would like your comments on the record of those public hearings, please wait until that time. But meanwhile, we will get started, and I recognize Bill Keenan. And Bill, welcome.
Thank you. Am I unmuted?
You're unmuted. We don't see you.
Oh, okay. Hey, actually, I'd like to ask that Jill Grandel take my place right now. Is she logged on already? I know some of us are having a hard time logging in.
I am not seeing a Jill here. I'm sorry, what was her last name?
Actually, I think it's Grandel. A friend asked me, I mentioned she was going to be in.
Okay, I do see a Lily Grandel, which
I'm sorry, that's who it is, Lily. My bad.
Okay.
Yeah, so if Lily could go before me, that'd be great.
I can't guarantee you, well, that you'll be the next one, but
that's okay.
If you'd like Lily to go ahead.
That'd be great.
Bridget, if you could bring her in.
Yes.
Okay, Lily Gandel. Oh.
Thanks for calling. Do I need to raise my hand? We're good.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you, folks. Okay, did you say you needed to know our address too?
If you'd like to share it with us, but we don't need it.
Okay. Well, my name is Lily Gandel. My address is 184 Winton Road, and I'm 22. I grew up in a liberal, pro-choice household. My dad, Dr. David Gandel, was an abortion provider and OBGYN in Rochester, New York, up until his unexpected passing in March. He was closely associated with Planned Parenthood. 2 years ago, I started to investigate my faith and belief in God, and in doing so became severely convicted by my core pro-choice beliefs. During this time, my deepening understanding of the perfect love and sacrifice that took place on the cross, along with my new comprehension of the Creator's relationship to the human life and family, moved me to become pro-life. I used to believe that Planned Parenthoods were necessary, not just for abortion, but also for providing other services for anyone, like testing and birth control. Something I didn't know, but now I find to be incredible, is that there are over 20 federally qualified healthcare centers in Rochester. They provide pregnancy testing, OBGYN care, birth control / natural family planning, prenatal care, STD and HIV testing, cervical cancer screening and breast exams, mammograms, pediatrics, family medicine, individual mental health counseling, and substance abuse assessment and referral. These awesome care providers are overlooked in our community, and from my experience, at most times they're unheard of. There's only one thing you can't get, and that thing results in the death of a human being. Every day, outside of Planned Parenthood, you will see prayerful witnesses defending the lives that can't defend their own from open to close. We offer safe alternatives to those entering and exiting the Planned Parenthood premise, as well as talk to pedestrians and drivers in the community about the sinister origins of Planned Parenthood and the continued genocide of the unborn taking place within its walls. The presence of these pro-life activists is certainly felt, and I can promise that this presence will be felt every day, every hour that this next abortion clinic is open. I will not be a silent daughter of this generation. Lives were lost, human beings put down, and my father was an instrument of this great injustice. I believe my father now knows better than any of us what a grave matter this really is. Thank you.
Thank you. And I am going to apologize here real quickly because I had intended to read two proclamations that we have this evening, and I'm going to do that before we continue with the open forum. And I apologize for doing that, but I think these are important proclamations. One I had referenced a moment ago, and that is a proclamation honoring and celebrating this past Monday, October 11th, as Indigenous Peoples Day, recognized here in Brighton. Whereas the town of Brighton recognizes that long before the formation of Brighton, Indigenous peoples of the Haudenosaunee Confederation were residents and stewards of the community in which we now live. Whereas the Seneca or Onondaga Nation were known as the keepers of the Western Gate among the members of the Haudenosaunee, guarding the western areas of the Confederation from outsiders. And whereas the community we now know as Brighton was traversed by the Onondaga, and one of Brighton's best known landmarks, the Council Rock, was the site of Onondaga councils and stood along the trail leading from Canandaigua Lake to what is now known as Rochester. And whereas the Council Rock was dedicated, quote, to the memory of the Nundawa Ono, the great Senecas, keeper of the Western Door, by the Rochester Historical Society on October 9, 1919. And whereas we recognize the importance of the Onondaga to our history, and in keeping with our commitment to diversity, honor the role that they played, the contributions they made in this region, and that they continue to make, along with the other members of the Haudenosaunee Confederation. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Brighton Town Supervisor William W. Maley, on behalf of all of the members of our town council, do hereby declare October 11th, 2021 as Indigenous Peoples Day in the town of Brighton. And we encourage all residents of Brighton to respect and honor the history of our first residents and learn about their heritage and culture and how they helped to shape our region and our community. And I signed that proclamation this past Monday, October 11th, Indigenous Peoples Day in the town of Brighton. Second, I have a proclamation recognizing the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas since its designation in 1987, October has been recognized as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in an effort to help people understand the severe consequences of abusive relationships and the damage it does to individuals, families, and significantly our entire country, as domestic violence destroys the homes, childhoods, and freedom of an estimated 13 million people per year. And whereas, while home is generally envisioned as a place of love, warmth, and comfort, for far too many, it is a prison instead of sanctuary, demoralizing instead of supportive, and dangerous instead of safe. Whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has devastated people's health and finances, heightened familial stress, and disconnected many from community resources and support systems, worsening existing violent situations and stimulating new violence in families where there once was none. Whereas the number of people impacted by domestic violence is staggering, nearly 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience severe domestic violence by an intimate partner during their lifetime. Whereas at the community level and as a nation, we must resolve to have zero tolerance for acts of domestic violence and Domestic Violence Awareness Month is an appropriate time to reaffirm our steadfast commitment to empowering survivors and ending this deeply destructive abuse. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Brighton Town Supervisor William W. Maley, on behalf of the members of our Town Council, do hereby declare October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the town of Brighton. We extend our sincere gratitude to all who are providing support, shelter, and hope to survivors of domestic violence, and strongly encourage those who are currently being subjected to domestic violence to seek assistance by calling the Willow Domestic Violence Center 24-hour hotline at 585-222-SAFE, or by visiting their website at willowcenterny.org. This proclamation is signed this 13th day of October 2021. I also want to mention that coming up, Chief, what is it? A week from this Saturday is the Walk for Willow Domestic Violence Walk. Do I have that date right?
Yeah, it's the
And
last day.
as we have done for many years, the Brighton Police Chief, the Brighton Fire Chief, and myself will be walking, although this year they've changed the format a little bit. In the past, the theme has been walk a mile in her shoes, but I understand that I can leave my size 14 red pumps in the closet this year, and we'll just be walking. However we do it, I do want to encourage folks to support the Willow Domestic Violence Center in their work to stop domestic violence in the community. And one way you can do that is to support the team that the chief, both the police chief, the fire chief, and I, and others will be walking. Brighton's Best, I think we call that team. So go to the Willow Domestic Violence Center's webpage, go to their giving page for the event, and if you'd like to support our walking, we'd love to have it. And if you'd like to walk, I know we would love to have as many walkers as we can a week from this Saturday. All right. Again, I apologize for having missed those proclamations earlier. We will return to the open forum. And Bridget, if you would bring Mr. Keenan back in if he is available to speak. Oh, we've got Carol Crossett instead. That's fine too.
I'll let Bill in next.
All righty, great. Carol, go ahead.
Hi there. Hi there. Actually, this is actually Carrie. Could you I think there's a second Carol in. Could you let that one in? I'm just observing.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
I hope I don't have the same one. The same names are on here. Oh, I do, of course. Okay.
Hello, did that work? I don't.
You know, we
Okay, here, Carol, you just go. We'll just go on here. Okay. Oh no, you're good. You're good. There you go. I'm gonna leave right now. Sorry about that, guys.
I don't know. Okay. Hey, everybody. Am I on?
Yes, you are, Carol.
Bill, this is so confusing. I'm over 60 and I'm actually over 70. But I am so happy that you talked about Indigenous Peoples Week, because it really leads into what I want to talk to you about, the Haudenosaunee, and particularly the Seneca peoples, the Prophet Handsome Lake. and the Constitution of the Five Nations, which actually condemns abortion. So thank you for giving me that overture. My husband, Dick, and Christopher Columbus share a common heritage. So we always get in a little tiff at this time of year. I remind my children that my maternal great-grandmother was the Eastern Band of Cherokee. That makes me over a big 8% Native American, which is more than Elizabeth Warren. Dick likes to remind me that it is enough to own a casino. It is embedded into the very soul of Indians' instinct to cherish the earth and preserve life. We value natural habitats. The womb is a natural habitat, you would agree. We believe that abortion violates a woman at her very core. It is sexual strip mining. It is a rape of the womb. Philomena Lakota is an Indian culture and language teacher. She says there is no word for abortion in their language because our values do not include the concept. Abortion also violates the Native Tribal Juvenile Code. Chapter 5, Section 1.05 reads, quote, "A child conceived but not born is to be deemed as an existing person so far as may be necessary for its interests and welfare." Some said babies in utero are killed with alcohol and drugs all the time anyway on reservations. But Lakota Cheryl Longfeather of the Native American Training Institute said Native peoples have historically been harmed by evils introduced by the white man. To the charge that the high crime on the reservations could be reduced if abortion was legal, yes, some have said that, Longfeather says abortion is capital punishment before the fact. In February 2006, some of you may know that South Dakota, driven by its Native population, passed a law to ban abortions in the state except to preserve the life of the mother. A Sioux wise woman spoke about the slaughter at Wounded Knee by U.S. troops.
30 seconds.
Abortion is yet another slaughter foisted on Native peoples by a white culture that worships the ways of the body. Within weeks, Planned Parenthood attempted to bring a clinic into Pine Ridge in South Dakota. The tribal council voted 16-0 to keep Planned Parenthood out. Today, there is still no Planned Parenthood on Pine Ridge or any reservation for that matter in the Dakotas today.
Time, please. Thank you. Can we have our next speaker, please? Mr. Keenan? Mr. Keenan, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, but we do not see you.
Yeah, I'm clicking on my video and it doesn't seem to do anything. Well, I'm extremely good looking if that helps, but you won't be able to determine that.
Why don't you go ahead then?
Yeah, just go ahead. Sorry. But yes. Oop.
Now we cannot hear you. Mr. Keenan, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you, but now I hear an echo.
We hear you fine.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Supervisor Maley and town board members. I ask you again to halt plans to allow Planned Parenthood. Huh. I can hear you.
We hear you. Mr. Keenan?
Yeah, there's like a 10-second delay here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
maybe we ought to target the next speaker.
Yeah, why
This
don't we
is-
do that? Why don't we bring you back on? Later.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Bridget, if you can bring in our next speaker. Mr. Peartree, good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
All right. So are you letting speakers in one by one? Is that what's happening?
yes.
Well, that's interesting.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, first I'm just curious about that process. It seems unusual not to be able to hear other speakers at a public hearing, but you can address that maybe separately.
Go ahead, sir.
Yep, let me make an observation. I'm going to speak about this Planned Parenthood proposal. First, an observation about Planned Parenthood that I think bears some repeating. Planned Parenthood does like to portray itself as a provider of essential health services for women, but what they prefer not to highlight is the fact that the real thing that differentiates them from other healthcare providers is abortion, and that is their business. So I want to speak directly to two, I think, legal issues concerning the Planned Parenthood proposed operation. One is the disposal of medical waste. The legal term in New York is regulated medical waste. This is governed by the environmental conservation law and the public health law, and it governs physicians' offices among other health-related facilities. So the questions there are whether this has been given or will be given consideration by the board. Is the proposed facility in compliance? Do they have the necessary permit? And what conditions will the town impose to ensure compliance? Second comment relates to the issue of the harvesting and distribution of human body parts for medical research. I believe the Planned Parenthood has been credibly accused of adapting their abortion procedures to maximize the organs and tissue they can harvest. Now, I know Planned Parenthood has denied this. They've cited their own internal investigation that purports to show that they're not selling body parts in violation of federal law, but I would suggest that that misses the point. For purposes of discussion, I would just say, let's drop the word sell. The fact is that Planned Parenthood does admit that it's taking fetal body parts and distributing them for medical research. I think in their view, they view this as a noble act. They say they're doing this as a donation to research and for cost. But far from being noble, I think that's a barbaric procedure. I think if we were to imagine an animal shelter that was taking abandoned animals carrying a litter and surgically killing and removing the unborn litter to sell parts for medical research, I don't
30 seconds.
have any doubt that animal activist groups would find that highly objectionable, and I don't seriously doubt that the town board of Brighton would cave to that in a heartbeat. So I think my concerns are certainly related around those two issues. If the town approves this application, I think we're complicit in all of this. This is not an appropriate activity for the town of Brighton, and I strongly oppose it.
Thank you. Our next speaker, please.
Lois is our next speaker. We're kind of stuck on the joining, but she should be here shortly. There she is.
All right. Lois, now you're unmuted, but we don't see you, which is okay. But if you would, please state your name and you can begin. Lois, can you hear me? Lois, can you hear me? Apparently, we're having technical issues.
Yes, I don't know why that one isn't working. Next will be Jim Berger.
Thank you. Mr. Berger, good evening. You're on mute. Mr. Berger? Mr. Berger, you're on mute.
I will try another person.
Lois is back in the room, but I don't know whether, Lois, can you hear me?
Next is Sherwin Serini.
All right, we did not have any trouble hearing several of the earlier speakers, so I don't believe the audio issue is on this end, but I don't know. Mr. Serini, go ahead, please.
Supervisor, I will try another person and
I see it says it's connecting.
yes, I can leave him here, but we could move on to another person and
Okay.
we could try him again.
Yeah, and why don't let's continue to leave people in the room if.
Okay. So next is Bob Gluck.
I don't know what's going on here. I apologize too. We do seem to be having technical difficulties. Oh, Mr. Gluck seems to have connected. Mr. Gluck, can you hear me? Mr. Gluck, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The sixth commandment, Exodus 20:13, thou shalt not kill. Jeremiah 1:5, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I set you apart. In two Hebrew words, God gave us the sixth commandment. The commandment was given to stress that all life is sacred and that God alone gives life and that no individual has the right to arbitrarily take life. And in Jeremiah, God confirms that life begins at conception and every life is precious and unique to him. Bill Melee, you stated you were pleased with the planning board's approval of Planned Parenthood. Are the rest of you pleased? Regrettably, to date, you have chosen not to publicly articulate your position on the two major issues that have plagued Brighton for months. You may sit in power over Brighton today and implement your extremist leftist agenda, but please know that the position you take on standing with or against Israel and abortion will affect your soul for eternity. Matthew 16:26. What do you benefit if you gain the whole world, but you lose your soul? Genesis 12:3. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. This scripture in the Torah pertains to Israel, God's land, and the Jews, God's people. On May 20th, Robin Wilt and her comrades certainly did not bless Israel or the Jewish people. Rather, they cursed Israel and they cursed the Jewish people. Bill Melee, You published and promoted a pledge to stand against hate speech and division. What good is a pledge if there is no accountability? You remain negligent to address, and thus I must presume that you endorse Robin Wilt's participation at that hate-filled rally. Not even Robin Wilt clapping for a down, down with Israel chant provoked a response from you. How cowardly. What about the rest of you? Are you all intimidated by the inevitable backlash from Robin Wilt and her supporters? Here are some of the hate speech statements from that rally. Israel is conducting illegal settlement expansion and outright genocide. Mrs. Corrado, do you agree? Israel is committing crimes against humanity. Mr. Werner, do you agree? Israel is an apartheid state and conducting the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. Mr. DePonzio, do you agree? When we are talking about F the police, we are talking about F the police here in
30
Palestine.
seconds, Mr. Gluck.
Yes. On another note, Bill Melee, you jumped on the woke bandwagon and tried to wipe Christopher Columbus from our collective memory. Shame on you. This is National Police Week, an opportunity to pay homage to those who gave their lives in the line of duty, and you chose to ignore. You just spent 15 minutes paying homage to indigenous people, and you didn't take 1 second to say anything about officers killed in the line of duty. I wonder how the chief of the department feels about that.
Time, Mr. Gluck. Next speaker, please.
Bill, do you want to try Lois one more time while I bring in a next speaker?
Sure. Lois, can you hear me? Lois?
I will remove Lois.
Maybe it makes sense for her to, if you can let her know, maybe she should try to reconnect.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know the name of the next person, so if I see CHR Constant on my screen, if you would be so good as to please state your name and address if you'd like.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. My name is Christine Constantine. I own the house at 59 Bufford Drive, Buffard, which I've owned for about 35 years. Is that sufficient?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I used to live right around the corner.
Yeah, I know that. I know that. Actually, you've been to a couple of the when we had block parties. Yeah, met you there a few times. Sorry about that. Okay, I've had difficulty connecting. I take it that is not me, but the problem is somewhere else. The passcode and the number of the meeting was not correct. Is that correct? Am I right?
Not to the best of my knowledge. We had number of people were able to get in, but in any event, we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. I was going to listen for a while, if that's okay. Can I do that?
Oh, sure.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
So you don't want to speak?
I don't want to speak now. I thought I could sign up after I heard some people speaking.
Okay.
Okay.
Bridget, can
Bill-
you bring
Bill,
another speaker?
may I make a recommendation? Since our participants in the waiting room cannot hear and the meeting as it's underway, would it be possible to let them in with the request that they stay muted and off screen until they're called?
We can do that, but it's not a request. They will stay muted. Yeah, if you'd like to bring the others in, Bridget, that's fine.
I'm doing
But,
so now.
Folks will speak one at a time. I don't know that will change the problems that some of the speakers seem to be having in getting their systems to work. and I will simply call on people then, and we're not going to, we're just going to call on folks as they come in. I see Jessica Shanahan. And obviously, folks who don't want to speak can watch on YouTube. Jessica Shanahan, please. And obviously,
hi.
Hello. Speak can watch on YouTube. Jessica Shanahan.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh, I guess there's a.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Maybe if you turn down the. I guess it's not simultaneous.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. Maybe if you turn down the.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we can't watch the YouTube and the Zoom at the same time, please.
Okay, let me delete the.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna delete the
Okay.
YouTube.
Okay.
I got you.
Thank you.
Just come back to me. I don't know how to do that. I'm gonna start all over.
Okay.
Next would be Cecilia.
Cecilia, go ahead, please.
Oh, you know what? I hate to do this. It's not a good time for me either. I have a child with no clothes on on my dining room table. I actually was planning on listening for a moment too, but
is there anybody else that wishes to speak now? Because we're going to have to do it. We are not going to stay here all night. If we don't have people that are prepared to speak now, we will end the open forum. I'm sorry.
am I unmuted?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll speak. I was gonna I don't have prepared remarks this evening. So I just wanted to bring up a couple of points about, the board in the past has shown genuine concern, and I admire this concern about how marginalized groups of people have been treated, and about how what has been legal in this country has not always been right. And so, what I was thinking today, I wasn't anticipating speaking, but I'm just gonna say something because I have the opportunity to. But I was thinking today about how, when things that are not moral are legal, there's still ways in which we as a people can not participate in these things that go against our core values as a country, namely that we're all created equal. And so, part of the issue that many of us have with the town of Brighton allowing Planned Parenthood, into our community, and why we continue to come back is that, there really is something that the town could choose to do. Just because this thing is legal doesn't mean that we have to embrace it and participate in it. And so, I would ask that, I'd ask that as we come back here, I know it probably gets a little exhausting to continue to hear us out, but I would hope that, maybe you could approach us with some fresh ears and understand the place that we're coming from, because it's irrefutable that elective abortion is the choosing to kill another human being. And we can agree that there's dire circumstances sometimes surrounding that choice, but it is still a choice, right? We're not talking about medically necessary procedures. We're talking about procedures that are chosen to be undertaken. And so alternatives to those procedures exist. And so, I recently read a man who was talking about people with profound disabilities, but I think that his analysis or what he offers and what he's learned with working closely with people with profound disabilities can actually also be applied to the child in the womb. And that is that they're peacemakers, because
30 seconds.
Their existence offers us the opportunity to either bend toward their needs and to soften our hearts, or to be aggressors toward them. And so, participating in abortion, and we are participating in it by welcoming it here and condoning it and giving it a place of residence, we are killing peacemakers. And so nothing is more important to preserving peace in this country than stopping that, or at the very least not participating in it. And so I know this is off the cuff, and I hope that I've made some sense here, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I will continue to come back, as will other people here, because there really is no
Time,
greater
please.
issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker. Mr. Walker, can you hear us? Again, apparently we're not, Mr. Walker, we can't hear you. I'd love to have you speak, but I can't hear you.
Supervisor Bill Keenan is also on if you want to try another
Sure.
person.
Mr. Keenan, we see you this time. Go ahead, please.
And I faked you up by telling you I was good looking the last time. Well, thanks for the opportunity to speak again. I ask you once again to halt plans for Planned Parenthood, and I agree with what the other speakers have said, especially with Cecilia, with a nude baby running around in the background. I don't have those distractions, but I just want to bring to your attention, the last time I spoke, I was mentioning about the other care facilities in the Rochester area. I think there are 12 women's health centers that provide the same services and even more than what Planned Parenthood provides, except for abortion, which is Planned Parenthood's major business, 90% of their business. But I also wanted to bring to your attention tonight one other issue with Planned Parenthood that you may not be aware of, and that is racism. You may have read that over the last 15 months, there's been much upheaval within Planned Parenthood, and it began to come to light publicly when the president of Planned Parenthood Federation issued a statement admitting that Planned Parenthood's founder was a racist and that racism still permeates the organization. This was followed in the next few months by 19 Planned Parenthood affiliates, which operate in a total of 33 states, openly admitting to the current racism in their own organization. You may have heard that a number of Planned Parenthood staff are now trying to form unions, and some have joined unions, mostly because of race.
Mr. Keenan, you just went on mute.
There was an article that was on BuzzFeed even recently that talked about this, where a number of Black and Brown employees complained that the persistent treatment of Black people as children or adolescents who are unable to accomplish work independently. This is how they're being treated by white employees, the white administration. Aside from the public relations backlash from all this, it also is affecting the services they're providing, where many of those employees are now, they've been out carrying signs. Some say, I cannot afford the care that I provide. Others make signs reading, better pay, help us stay, and a livable wage for all is all the rage. And then the familiar pink, I stand with Planned Parenthood signs were altered to, I stand with Planned Parenthood workers. So all is not well at Planned Parenthood regarding racism in many
30
of the
seconds,
areas.
please.
And much of what the disgruntlement is about also is the salaries of the CEOs, which average $255,000. And many of the Black and Brown employees are asking for raises themselves. So that's all I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Ms. Constant, Ms. Constant, are you?
Yes, I am here. I'm not, oh yes, look, there I am.
There you are.
How strange. Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. And thanks thanks for letting me in. I think it was kind of difficult to get in, which kind of surprises me because Brighton's such a upscale place. But okay. At any rate, as I said before, I started living in Brighton in about 1978. And I am not from these parts. And I have loved living in Brighton. And I love the town. I love the mix. I just think it's all great stuff. It's all great stuff. But this is not great stuff. It's not at all. And even if you think that in abortion in some cases is necessary or even good, the New York State law now has made it such that there's lots of it that isn't, and everybody should be able to agree to that. So moving on though, okay, yes, okay, it's legal in New York. What they're doing is legal in New York. However, at the meeting when the planning board was supposed to be reviewing this, and nobody could ask the right questions, right? Because the good town attorney, Mr. Gordon, said, and I'm sure he believed it to be so, that the planning board could not address such questions since it was illegal use. Okay. Well, okay. I just want to ask one thing. If they could look at those questions, they could talk to the community about it. They could answer the community's questions about it, but they didn't. They didn't because they wanted it to go through without knowing who these people are, what their backing is, why here in Brighton. There are other towns that they were considering. Why Brighton? And so these questions weren't asked. And I will just end with this. It may be a little insulting, but I don't mean it to be. I mean it to be a serious question. If a new entity were wanting to come into Brighton and use one of those lovely stores around 12 Corners to start to begin their business of a great coffee shop
30
with
seconds, please.
unclothed wait persons, okay, unclothed unclothed in a legal way, you understand, unclothed legally, and serving coffee. I doubt very much if the planning board or the town board would not ask more questions about that. And that's what I have to say. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sorry I was a lot not quite as organized as I might have been.
No
Thank
worries.
you.
Thank you. Mr. Tetanoff, would you like to speak?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to raise objection to how the meeting is done over Zoom. So if you're connecting from a mobile device, first you have to put in a name that Bridget Monroe will allow you to be connected. Otherwise, you're stuck in the waiting room like 5 other people are right now, as visible on the YouTube page. Then you have to wait for her to allow you to unmute yourself or allow you to start your video. On a mobile device, laptop, on a phone or a iPad or tablet, it's a quick pop-up. And if you're looking at the camera to speak, you won't notice it until you are asked to speak and keep being asked to speak, that you now need to go and look for the unmute button and tap it so that it appears, tap your screen so that the controls appear, and then tap it again so that you are now finally unmuted. If you guys are going to run the meeting this way, then you guys need to tell people how give them consistent instructions on what to do. If you're using a mobile device, you won't be allowed to in for a long time unless you use first name, last name, or a combination that's acceptable. Then you have to wait for the mute for Bridget to allow you to be unmuted, and then you have to tap it once or twice until you're unmuted. You have to come up with these instructions that you repeat either before each speaker, or Bridget needs to talk to them in a breakout room and then move them into the main room. But this reeks of amateur hour. Please, but act like professionals. Provide clear and concise instructions so that people can listen to the meeting and provide their input.
30 seconds, Mr. Tetanoff.
Thank you for the warning, Bill. And if you're not going to pronounce my name correctly, please just don't pronounce it. If you're going to butcher it, please be polite and not mispronounce my last name. The other thing, I wanted to ask why the board really doesn't question some of the items in the budget and some of the items on the agenda every week. It's almost like it's the Bill show, and some of these things are good. I really like that you guys showed up at the recycling event and we're there.
Time, Miss Alexi. Time. Thank you.
Supervisor?
Again, I will, yes. Yes.
I was just going to say, at this time, we have 5 people in the waiting room.
Okay.
2 who have already spoken, 3 who have spoken. I believe Jessica Shanahan had spoken, and 2 others that we've tried several times, Cuevas, Walker, and Lois.
I know we tried Mr. Walker once.
Lois, we tried 3 times so far.
Yes. Well, let's see if we can get them in. And again, I want to remind everybody that we will be holding a public hearing. In fact, we will be holding 3 public hearings related to the budget. And if people would like to speak on the budget during the public hearing, they'll have the opportunity to do that when the public hearings are called. Mr. Walker, good evening. Can you hear me? I do see Lois. The screen says she is connecting. Lois or Cuevas Walker, can either one of you hear me? I'm not sure what the problem is, because obviously several other speakers have been able to connect. I can only I can only say that we always welcome written comments. If anyone would like to email us before the meeting, we can include your commentary as part of our communications. But we don't seem to be able to connect either with Cuevas Walker or Lois. Can either one of you hear me? We have not been able to hear either one of you.
Supervisor, I'm also letting Jessica Shanahan in again.
Okay. Ms. Shanahan, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Good, so can we. Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
please.
Hello, yes, my name is Jessica Shanahan. I've been a resident of Brighton for 30 years. This is a very confusing system, so I do hope you fix it because it's so hard to be listening on your phone and ready to speak. I've been sitting here since before 7 o'clock. Last week, a couple of us delivered 3 packages of petitions that were over 2,000 signatures of people that are against the Planned Parenthood in Brighton. We delivered them to the MRB group, which is supposed to be the architect, as well as the managing group, the Cavett group, as well as the town of Brighton. I hope you got the packet. We have a lot more signatures to give. We actually stopped collecting them, but I can get more signatures any day of the week or night because so many people are against this. My question for the board relates to a lot of other people, and that is, have you ever had a business in Brighton that was proposed that you've had this much opposition against ever? Because my suspicion is the answer is 100% no. That you've ever had over 60 people in a couple of months with no notice, not had one question asked of anybody that spoke. Not one question have you ever asked us when people are against it. You're just listening to listen. And there's no back and forth about it. You can look up and down Monroe Avenue and see that there have been businesses that have closed over time. And Brighton has a little bit of a reputation as being tough on business, tough on regulations. And I do respect that. I do respect being tough on businesses and tough on regulations and just not letting any fast food restaurant join or anything like that. Then why would you be so supportive of a business that has over 2,000 people against it, had over 60 people and hours of people speak against it, most of whom are Brighton residents? You haven't had a lot of people speak for it, okay? Another thing is that a starting police officer in Brighton makes $62,000 a year. That's with no experience. With 1 year's experience, I read on your website, it's $72,000 a year. I hope you're prepared to hire another police officer to man the Planned Parenthood. It won't be because us peaceful people will be there against it. It'll be because of the other side that's angry, the bitter, the hatred, the vitriol that we've seen time and time again. And it's just so ironic, I find it, that you welcome something that is so unwanted by your constituents. It just shows that you're not listening at all. And it just, forget about the money, okay? Because I'm happy to pay for good things, but you haven't asked any questions. You don't care. And that's the message that, the impression that I've gotten, as well as I think most people. So I do thank you for listening tonight. I think this format is difficult to make our opinions heard. And us who are speaking have had to wait for a couple of hours or whatever, and be embarrassed when my mute was, I'm listening on my phone, and the lag time. But at the same token, like, I love my community of Brighton. I love being here, but I'm extremely disappointed right now. And I hope that you guys will reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Berger, are you able to
Yes.
hear us? Okay, good. We hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what happened here. I tried to get in on the Zoom like 10 times, and this time I was successful.
And we do seem to be having some technical issues tonight.
Right.
I'm not quite sure why. We will try to address
Okay.
those. Some people are clearly able to get through,
Right.
but in any event,
All
we're
right.
pleased to have you here. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I have a brief statement I want to read in support of Robin Wilt on the town board. My name is Jim Berger. I was born here in Brighton in 1949, and I've been living back here since 2010. Several months ago, for the first time, I really wasn't involved in board meetings or anything with the town. I'm busy taking care of my mom, who's 102 now. But I heard about these rumblings of sort of like attacks on Robin Wilt, that, you know, that she's being labeled as an anti-Semite. So I want people to know that I'm Jewish. My mother's Jewish. She grew up in Germany and luckily got out, you know, in 1938. She lost many relatives over there. How do we define anti-Semitism? I looked it up. Here's what it said. The belief or behavior hostile toward Jews just because they are Jewish. The Robin Wilt that I am getting to know is no way near that definition. I believe she is being vilified because she wrote, quote, "Free Palestine" on her Facebook page. As a Jew who is very proud of his heritage and loves that Israel exists, I am also in favor of freedom and justice for the Palestinian people. Also, admiring or supporting a Palestinian woman in no way translates to being against Jews. I am a proud supporter of an organization called Combatants for Peace, which is an NGO made up equally of Israelis and Palestinians, people who used to hate one another and now have forged strong bonds and alliances as they work for peace and reconciliation in their homeland. A while ago, I attended a meeting of the Community Services Committee that Robin, I think, chairs. And I also came to a board meeting when we could go, you know, live at the town hall. In both instances, I have found Robin to be conscientious, hardworking, and well-organized.
30 seconds, please.
At the meeting, I watched Robin as she had to endure yet another attack on her character, though it was veiled. Throughout, she was calm, courteous, and professional. In my view, Robin is just the sort of person I want on our town board. She is progressive and competent. She works hard to bring our town up to speed with regard to the climate crisis that we find ourselves in. She is sensitive to the needs of a diverse community and advocates for making our town more inclusive. Back when I was born, there were covenants and restrictions in Brighton that prevented—
Time, please.
Okay, thank you.
And if you'd like to submit your full statement to the town clerk, you can do so.
Okay, thank you very much.
That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, good night.
It looks like we have Mr. Cuevas Walker again and Lois. Neither one of you are indicated as being muted, but it doesn't seem as though you're hearing us. Can either one of you hear us?
Can you hear me?
I heard that, but you're going to have to speak a little bit louder.
All right, let me see what I can do. Is that better?
No.
No, because I'm kind of yelling at you right now. Yell. I don't know how to make it louder.
It's getting louder.
All right, let me see if I can just move my PC a little closer. How's that?
Good.
Okay, I'm yelling. Okay, you know, week after, this is Lois, by the way, Lois Ready. You know, week after week, we come to you and we give you information about Planned Parenthood. And we're doing this because we want you to protect our community. There are a lot of evil things that are going on in Planned Parenthood, which we talked about. We talked about the criminality of them selling the baby body parts. And that is a fact to the companies. I gave you that report several weeks ago, over a month ago now, where they have been shut down for buying baby body parts. So we know that this is a fact. They bought them from Planned Parenthood, which means Planned Parenthood was involved. So it's a fact. I gave you information that they were doing partial birth abortions, which is illegal. Both of these things are illegal. So, and then last, not, well, whenever, I gave you report after report after report after report, how Planned Parenthood has been guilty of not turning in rape victims, not reporting it. And I am so glad that you're against the violence, but the fact is that you're promoting it when you're allowing this to happen. And this is a problem. I'm really not understanding how you can justify the two of them. Because the fact of the matter is, in one of the reports by the mental, it was, I don't have all the details because, you know, I have, anyway, it's called Lessons Learned from Child Sexual Abuse Research, okay, CSA. And they indicate sexually abused children are more likely to present behavioral problems, more prone to abuse substances, to engage in self-harm behaviors, and to attempting or committing suicide. The mental health outcomes of CSA victims are likely to continue into adulthood. The fact that CSA victims are more at risk to experience violence in their early romantic relationships, and that they are 2 to 5 times more at risk of being sexually re-victimized in adulthood. The fact is that these people never get healed. They're never healed. And when we allow someone like Planned Parenthood that refuses to help these children with the laws the way we are absolutely relying upon the health community, the teachers, to report these things. And
30 seconds, please.
Planned Parenthood has refused to do that. And that is a quote from a previous employee. So the confusion is you're talking, it's like you're talking on two sides. You're not balancing what you're saying with what you're proclaiming, what you're doing. And I'm having a hard time accepting that. I really would want to encourage you guys to stand together against violence and against trafficking and against abusing people, the kids being abused. And the only way to do that is not to allow.
Thank you. Time, please.
That's all
Thank you very much.
that's all I got to say.
I believe now Mr. Walker is the only person here that we have not heard from on this matter.
Supervisor?
Yes.
Sorry, we had CH Christine Constantine, but this person is also Christine Constantine, but a different handle. I didn't know if it's the same. I mean, I'm assuming it's the same, but they're both on here in the waiting room with 2 different handles.
If you can hear me, I'm sorry about that. I don't
Yes,
know what
but,
to do about it.
but you've already spoken, I believe.
Oh, she left.
Okay. Mr. Walker? Well, I don't believe we're going to be able to hear Mr. Walker tonight, and I feel badly. Mr. Walker, can you hear me? We've heard him before, and I appreciate his taking the time to try to get in, but it does not seem as though, for whatever reason, he's able to get his audio working. So I think we're going to have to go on with the business meeting. If there's no one else that has not spoken, and I don't see anybody that has not already spoken other than Mr. Walker in the waiting room, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Jason.
Can I have a second, please?
Second, Christine.
Thank you, Christine. Any discussion? Hearing, actually, if we could, I do want to reverse the order of the first 2 public hearings, so that the first hearing will be on the preliminary budget and the second one will be on the assessment rolls. Jason,
Yes, that's fine. I
Good.
accept
And
the amendment.
Christine, you're
Fine.
good with that? Thank you. Okay.
Absolutely.
With that change, any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Karat.
We'll now begin the public hearings. We have 3 public hearings tonight. The first one is on the proposed supervisors 2022 preliminary budget. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, notices were published in the September 30th edition of the Daily Record.
Thank you. Then I declare this public hearing to be open, and we will start the public hearing with a presentation by the Finance Director, Paula Parker, on the proposed 2022 preliminary budget. And I know Paula's going to use the screen share, so
okay,
those of us,
can everybody hear me?
yes.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, everybody see that?
Yes, and I would again ask board members if you would to close out your video so that the ASL interpreter is up on the screen.
Okay. Are we ready? All right, Heather, here we go. So tonight I'm going to present to you the 2022 town budget. Yes, it's that time again, everybody. This year we kind of stuck again with nature. As you can see, our cover page is the beautiful waterfalls at Corbett's Glen. I just want to remind everybody a little bit about our departments. We go through this every year, and this year we're going to look at some statistics from 2020. Remember, that was our COVID year. So we have our police department and courts, New York State accredited police agency. We budget 40 full-time officers and 5 or more part-time professionals and dedicated sworn police officers. We have 24-hour per day operation. Services include emergency response, road patrol, criminal investigations, crime prevention, youth programs, animal control, school crossing guards, and court security. In 2020, there were 46,586 calls for service, incredibly down 20% from 2019. The calls were just under 58,000. Again, 20 was our COVID year, a lot of shutdowns. There was also just under 300 criminal arrests made in 2020, down almost 50% from the 2019 arrests of 564. As part of our community engagement initiatives, were continued to take place in the community and will continue annually, obviously based with our COVID protection, wearing masks and so forth. Our courts, who were shut down a significant amount of the time in 2020 due to COVID, processed 5,187 cases, and that should be in 2020. This is down significantly. They run about 9,000 cases annually. Now we're going to look at the highway department. We maintain 194.5 lane miles of roads, 83 miles of storm sewers, 41 miles of concrete gutters, 38 miles of curbing, and approximately 1,700 road signs. The repaving and surface treatment of approximately 20.4 miles this year. We replaced 147 square yards of gutters, 3,459 linear feet of storm sewers. We continue snow and ice control on 318 lane miles of roads during our winter months. Curbside brush and leaf pickup townwide from April to October. We includes the processing of this bulk at our landfill, 30,267 cubic yards of brush, and 28,700 cubic yards of leaves were processed in 2020. Also in 2020, we removed 40 trees, planted 26 trees, and trimmed 195 trees that were hazardous. We also completed the emerald ash borer treatment in 2020.
Although I would note we'll be doing that again in 3 years.
Yes, we will.
2
And we
years
do
now.
budget. We budget for that during the cycle that we do that. The library. We have a wide array of information, including books, ebooks, audiobooks, streaming video, movies, DVDs, multimedia, discount museum and park passes, internet access, and research databases. We have community resources, including our computer technology classes, Partners in Reading program for seniors, tutoring and study rooms, Friends of the Library bookstore, Brighton Kiwanis Discovery Room for children, and the Learning Center meeting room for nonprofit organizations. We had just under 52,200 patron visits to the library in 2020, with about 79,600 estimated for the current year 21. We had 1,040 library programs with 20,700 attendees in 2020. Brighton Memorial Library leads the other Monroe County library services in similar sized communities in usage statistics, although we would like you to see, we note in red at the bottom that the numbers were significantly lower in 20 to 21, again, due to COVID. Parks and Recreation. The Parks and Recreation have recreation areas encompassing over 564 acres, and that includes the 2018 purchase of the 26 acres of parkland on Westfall Road. Recreation facilities include 8 playgrounds, 2 lodges, pavilions, an indoor and outdoor pool, 8 soccer fields, which I believe our indoor pool, again, couldn't use the last couple of years due to COVID, 8 soccer fields, 7 baseball, softball fields, 4 tennis courts, 2 basketball courts, 2 pickleball courts, and picnic facilities. Over 17 miles of walking trails with the addition of the new Highland Crossing Trail. Activities and classes year-round for all age groups. We had 254 programs with 649 sessions offered this year in 2021, as compared to the 263 and the 672 respectively in 2019. And again, for 2020, we did a lot of online courses. We've gone back to some in-person classes. So our recreation programs have been very innovative in how they've been able to offer to the community our programs. We continue to have the community garden, the farmers market, and the Veterans Memorial. Some of the other services that we provide are compliance with our fire and building codes. Public Works reviews construction projects for conformity with the town's comprehensive plan, our zoning and community development goals. Public Works plans and new town infrastructures and development projects. Current projects include the Highway Crossing Trail, Monroe Avenue Green Innovation Project, streetscape improvements, our pedestrian and bicycle plan implementation. We do cable broadcasting of town public meetings. The town clerk provides marriage licenses, passports, and conducts elections. The town historian collects, organizes, and preserves historical town records, and the assessor maintains our property valuation records for all town parcels. So now let's get into the meat of the budget for 2022. I'm going to take a look at some of these numbers in summary, focusing first on our 3 major operating funds, and that's the general fund, the highway fund, and the library fund. So if you look at the authorized appropriations, I'm going to skip down to the totals rather than read all these numbers and kind of, put everybody to sleep. For 2022, we are looking at authorizing $221,920 in appropriation, in monies that we are going to spend. To offset that, we're looking at having $9,422,115 estimated revenues coming into the budget. We're also going to appropriate fund balances and $10,000 in reserves totaling $1,820,520. That leaves an amount to be raised in taxes of $15,979,285. Our next line down is to look at the total net funds in 2022, which again, we're
No, I
going to
believe,
do.
Paula, that isn't that 2021?
Yeah, sorry about that. 2021. We had 26 million last year, 361,845. Reading across the line, you can see that our revenues were significantly decreased for 2021 at 87 million or 800, excuse me, 8,780,000. Appropriated fund balance also was a little bit higher at 1.8 million. And again, the amount in taxes that we raised last year was the 15,744,000. Continuing across, let's look at our changes. So we are going to go up by 860,000 in authorized appropriations. We're also going to increase that offset to those appropriations by 683,000. We did decrease our appropriated fund balance slightly, down 13,830. That brings us to the amount to be raised in taxes for those operating funds of $235,050. Looking at the percentage, that's going to be 1.49% in the actual dollars that we'll be raising, again, for those three operating funds. When you look down below at our total assessed value, we can see that our total assessed value did decrease in dollars by about 1.3 million. What that means is that total taxable value declined. So we have less amount to leverage our tax money on. That decrease was about 0.04%. So our tax rate per thousand, with all this being said, is going to go from $5.17 a thousand to $5.25 a thousand. It's about just under 8 cents per thousand, or 1.54%. So if we look at our special districts now, we're going to add those in, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next slide and a little bit lower on the slide for the West Brighton Fire Protection District. So our 2022 district budgets, authorized appropriations, again, 4.3 million. We have estimated revenues of $148,245, and our appropriated fund balance is $82,800, which means we have to raise $4,095,085 in taxes for our special districts. Those special districts are refuse districts, lighting districts, and all the special districts that we have. So altogether, with the operating funds and our special districts, we are looking at the amount to be raised in taxes on the very end there of $20,074,370. Now, if we go down to the next slide, what we're looking at in total is that 21,206,375 total taxes, which is a little deceiving because that's showing a 1,132,000 negative amount when you add all the special districts together. I have to actually add back in the difference from West Brighton Fire Protection District. The state of New York has said that we have to go back and we have to discount $1,543,460, our number in purple, which is going to leave us a difference of levies in the amount of $411,455. dropping below that change for everything across the board, all special districts and the operating fund, is we're increasing the taxes by 2.09%. Now let's take a look at how that falls within the tax cap. As everybody knows, the tax cap, the number we always kick around is 2%, which is the cap, or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower. However, this year, we were able to, again, we have to make this adjustment. So when we look at the prior year tax levy for 2021, it actually is not the 21,206,375. I've had to subtract out the West Brighton Fire Protection District of $1,543,460. That brings us to that levy of $19,662,000. So we're starting a little bit lower for the levy because of this adjustment. We've had minimal growth at all, so it's going to be 0.16%. Our pilots receivable for 2021, we add those in, that's 503,000. And then we get to add in the growth factors. Everybody knows this year it is capped at 2% because of the rate of inflation. It's the lesser of inflation, or 2%. Our pilots receivable then come out of that number. That's 471,000. We did not have any carryover from the previous year. And there's also no adjustment this year for our pension, which we'll talk about in a couple of slides as well. So that gives us a total tax levy limit of $20,131,015. We could potentially increase our taxes by the next line down, which is the $468,000, or 2.38%. So as the numbers figure out, the tax cap for town of Brighton is really 2.38%. When we look at what our preliminary budget tells us we can raise in both our operating funds and our special districts, we're actually coming in at $20,074,370, or again, that 2.9%. That brings us below the tax cap by $56,645. And when we look at where our dollars are coming from, and I'm going to just focus on a couple of key areas on this pie chart. Obviously, the biggest piece of our pie is the 61.2%. The real property taxes, again, are 15.9 million, plus our pilots, and that's the 470,000. And we include in that also late fees on real property tax payments. So our total there is going to be about 16,650,000 of our that large piece of the pie. Our next biggest slice of that pie is the rust colored pie, and that's the sales tax. And we've this year we've projected sales tax to go up in 22 to 4.4 million. In 2021, we budgeted 3.8 million. So we're looking at quite a bit of an increase. That's based on what we've brought in for the first 2 quarters of 21 and seeing how those numbers are shaking out and trending up for 2022. Our next piece of the pie is our appropriated fund balance. Again, we're looking at 1.8 million, a little bit less than last year. And the other largest piece of this pie is our mortgage tax. And we'll look at that a little more in depth as well, but that's 4%. All the other revenues together are intergovernmental charges, department income fees, state aid, which is minimal, and a slight interest. Interest has been low, federal aid has been low, and our appropriated reserves all coming in at under 1%. So I wanted to just take a really quick look at our sales tax history. Our red line is showing what we've actually received over those few years that we're looking at from 2011 to 2020. The current year is the 3.8 million. And that number was projected based on COVID. We know that businesses were shut down. We weren't sure what was going to happen. So we did estimate that number in 2021 at 3.8 million. However, looking at that 4.4 million, we are still estimating that that number will increase that amount. And it's going to be right around what we collected in 2019 with just a little bit more. Again, we're looking at about a 5% increase, but overall the growth between the 2 years is actually going to be down a little bit. Again, from 2011 at the bottom of the slide to 2021, an average of about 5% growth a year. And this mortgage tax graph, if everybody remembered that in previous years, we've had a couple of lines on there that were all over. This year, I decided to put some bars on here. I think it demonstrates a little bit cleaner how volatile that mortgage tax really is. So for each of the years on the graph, we've got the red, which is what we budgeted, what we thought we were going to bring in. And then we've got the green, which what we actually did bring in. So you can tell how difficult it is to project mortgage tax. There's a lot of things that go into it: interest rates, properties for sale, how many people are looking. There's a lot of moving parts in our mortgage tax. However, in the coming year for 2022, based on what we've seen the first half of 2021, plus what we did see in 2020, despite COVID, we've projected that number to increase slightly up to 1,125,000. So our net appropriations by expenditure type, again, we'll focus on just a couple pieces of this pie, but when you look at what are our biggest expenses, well, it's our people, it's our staff, but because we are in the service business, it's what we do. Again, 50% of all of our expenses are based on wages. That's almost $14 million. Slipping over to the rust colored piece of the pie is our employee benefits. And again, that's just under 7 million. So 75% of our budget is really spent on our people, our employees, to provide the services, to plow the roads, for our police force to patrol the streets. Again, all of these are really people-driven services. And the rest of our things are things like our supplies and materials, office supplies, things we need to do our jobs. We've got contractual services by other providers that we paid to do services, that's 5.7%. And then we've got debt service, equipment, utilities, and telephone is a small sliver of the pie, insurance and risk management. And this year, we're not projecting any interfund transfers. One of the items I really kind of want to talk a little bit on, because we actually did favorably well, is our New York State retirement expense. Last March of 2020, the stock market, which a lot of the estimates are based on by the New York State retirement system, was low. It was very low, March of 2020, when we were putting our projections together for 21. So we can see there that we projected 2.4 million for expense in the current year in our current 21 budget, which that number will be very, very close. However, we did get some welcome news from the state retirement system, and for 2022, we're looking at about a 12% decrease, or $308,000. So we're going to drop that estimate back down to 2.1 million, almost 2.2 million. And that's going to be really close to where we were in 2017. This is good news for the town. It's good news for all municipalities, and certainly is welcome relief. We can see by this graph, how we've performed over the past few years with retirement. Now we're going to go into how, who spends our money? What departments spend our money? So the two biggest pieces of the pie are public works and highway operations together. 33% is the police department. And then we've got the Brighton Memorial Library that takes up 8.4%. Our general government support is coming in at 7.3%, followed by our parks at 5%, just over, then recreation at 4.3%. Our town justices are under 2%, town clerk at 1.5%, and our supervisor and council at 2.2%. We're also going to be putting funds into several infrastructure and equipment for next year through our capital plan that we adopted in late September. In the sewer district, we're going to be doing sewer relining of just under $300,000. This is all budgeted in our operating fund. Also in the sewer district, we anticipate buying a small dump truck, and we're going to share an excavator with the highway department. We plan on spending $133,497 for those purchases, offset by $60,500 in borrowing. And we're also going to put $10,000 back into our reserve for the sewer department. The sidewalk district, we've actually increased the number of sidewalks we're going to do for next year. We're going to be putting in 200,000. We're also going to be utilizing or offsetting that 200,000 by $5,000 from our fund balance. We will also be making a contribution to our reserve in the ambulance district for the purchase of our next ambulance, which will happen in about 18 months. When we look at information systems, police, parks, rec, and facilities, we're looking at about 2.7 million. To replace servers, computers, network equipment, and disaster recovery equipment, we're looking at $62,700 budgeted in operations. Police vehicles, we are anticipating replacing 3 vehicles at $153,000. These are all hybrid vehicles. We're also going to be doing body camera data storage for $42,000. Again, all budgeted in operations. Our farmers market project at the barn continues. We're going to be spending $585,000, which is all going to be offset with grant money. In the Parks Department, we're going to be purchasing a skid steer, and we're going to be repairing the tennis and basketball court repairs. That's $106,500. $52,500, which will be the issuance of debt for the skid steer. In the facilities, we're anticipating our HVAC upgrades at Town Hall. That'll be about $1,680,000 plus or minus. We plan on using our American Rescue Plan funds for that. And we're also going to be looking at doing improving the park lighting at the highway facility for $71,000, and we'll be issuing debt for that project as well. Looking at highway and public works, we're going to be looking at spending approximately $1.7 million. We're looking at buying plow truck, an excavator. Again, we'll be sharing that with the sewer department. A pickup truck, a boom lift, and a tractor. Those things are valued at $577,739, all planned on borrowing. We're going to repave some roads. We're going to resurface. We're going to replace storm sewers and gutters and townwide sidewalks. We've got $747,767 planned for those projects. $263,860 are planned in grants, primarily funded by the CHIPS program. We have no planned borrowing for any of those programs. Planning and other sidewalks in the district and the GIGP Monroe Avenue maintenance project, we're planning on $258,890. We're going to offset those by grants, $174,000 and $10,000 in reserves, the difference of which will be budgeted in operations. Again, no borrowing for those projects. And our forestry management, we're increasing. We've increased that amount by about $30,000 next year. We're going to be doing tree trimming, removal, and planting of trees. There won't be any treatment of the emerald ash borer next year. So those are all the significant items we have planned for the budget next year. It's, I believe it's a good budget that we've put together. I know the department heads have worked very hard. We review the budgets We make every attempt to reduce and keep flat in a majority of areas, especially supplies and contractual expenses every single year. We review revenue lines. Again, with COVID, it's been difficult to get a firm measurement on how those revenues will come to pass. If we have another shutdown, and I sincerely hope we don't, but if we do, some of those department revenues, of course, will decline. We may see decline in other areas too. So it can be a difficult amount to estimate. Our largest budget challenges this year, again, it's the continued rising medical costs for our active and retired employees. However, our pace has slowed down some. We're looking at about a 5% increase for next year. Usually we've been around 7 to 8%. So this is, again, a bit of good news. And again, the better news that we received this year that's really helped us out is the decrease for the New York State retirement expense. Again, about a 12% savings or $300,000. So that'll wrap up my presentation. And of course, any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Paula. I do want to note, we do have 2 separate public hearings tonight. The first one is on the preliminary budget, and that's the hearing that is open now. The second is on the proposed 2022 assessment rolls for service charges, maintenance charges, capital improvements, and sewer rent charges for special improvements districts. We will hold that as a separate public hearing, but I want to let everybody know that we're not going to you should feel free to submit your comments, to speak your comments to this first public hearing, and no need to try to figure out which public hearing your comments should be included in. We will make sure that they are incorporated as referenced in the appropriate public hearing. So the public hearing on the supervisor's 2022 budget was previously open before the presentation. Is there anyone that would like to address the board on this budget at this time in the public hearing? Alexi, I see you unmuted. Would you like to address the board?
Yes, I would. Hopefully you guys can hear me.
Yep.
So I appreciated the budget presentation. I did not see a copy of the budget or the budget presentation in the agenda for today's meeting. I was wondering how I would get a copy of that other than rewinding this YouTube presentation. I would hope that it would be posted either in the minutes, which have not been posted for quite some time. I guess they're not finalized yet. But regarding the budget presentation, I would like to see, I thought the overview and the detail for each department was good, but I would love to see a number for each major section. I think that would help associate the cost of each major budget item. For example, how much did the library cost? How much is it anticipated the library will cost us next year? Police, how much would that cost us next year? The other thing that I thought was quite odd is the assessed value that seems to be way down, or I think you indicated that it was down, and I don't know how that's possible since there were so many houses that went on sale, so many residences went on sale and were sold for way over asking. I would think that assessed value skyrocketed in this past year since real estate sales were allowed to resume. So I find that that number to be quite curious. So I would be interested in understanding how that's possible And the other thing that I don't understand why, if we have so much money coming in, why are we borrowing $71,000 for lights for the highway department? And is it just to light up that building, that area? Why are we delaying? Why are we spending the money now and then delaying the revenue till, future years? Why incur that future liability? Why not just, if you're going to spend it now, use the money now? Why create this debt and more debt for this small item here and there and here and there, and it adds up to real money? I don't understand this kind of credit card kind of debt when there's no reason for it. If we can't afford to pay for it now, why not delay it until we can pay for it? So thank you for the opportunity to speak at this one. I have other questions for the next one.
Thank you. And I'll address those. I believe the entire budget is available in the clerk's office. I believe it's in the library, and I believe it's online as well. So with great detail, you will see those departmental line items that you were asking about, and drilling down very far into each of those departments. Your question about borrowing is a good one. And we are borrowing this year. However, if you look at our net borrowing, net of principal repayments of debt that's currently outstanding, this year, again, as we have in a couple of recent years, our actual net principal amount of indebtedness outstanding will decline because we are paying off more debt than we are incurring new debt. So we are paying down borrowed money for previous capital projects. And at the same time, we are paying for certain important capital projects, most of them quite large, like large trucks with debt. You specifically asked about the lights in the highway department. That's a project that actually, if you're familiar at all with 1941 Elmwood Avenue, our highway department, our employees' parking lot there has no lights at all. And our highway department employees, particularly during the winter when they are plowing, are coming in at all hours of the night. And it's important that that parking lot be lighted for their safety and, for the safety of the whole plowing process. So that's the reason we're undertaking that project, and because it is a significant capital project, a one-time capital project, unlike, for example, paving, which we do every year. And therefore, other than for certain extraordinary projects, we don't borrow for. Paving, gutters, sewers, typically we do them every year. They're recurring expenses. We don't generally borrow for them. So that's an answer on the borrowing question. With respect to the assessment, it's really a couple of pronged answer. You are right that house prices have risen very significantly. However, that does not, in the case of residential properties, automatically translate into increased values for those properties. What it may mean, if it continues, is that we will need to conduct a town-wide revaluation more quickly than we normally do. We have a set of parameters that we use to determine whether a town-wide revaluation is necessary. And while I don't expect it to happen, I think the residential real estate market's increase is probably slowing. We have certainly moved quite a ways in the direction of hitting those parameters, our equalization ratio and our coefficient of dispersion, the equalization ratio, meaning broadly how far over or under assessed valuation the actual real market value is, and the coefficient of dispersion being how broadly dispersed around an average number those prices are. Both of those numbers have gone up significantly, which is consistent with a volatile and growing real estate market. I would also note that taxable status date is March 1. So the kind of big increases that we saw during this past summer are not yet reflected in any way in the assessed valuation that we need to use for determining this year. Conversely, our commercial markets, of course, have been challenged in part because of COVID, in part because of the frivolous litigation that has been brought, that has delayed the completion of the Whole Foods project, which will add significantly to the assessed valuation of commercial property in the town. One of the things that's very important to a community's fiscal stability is having a good blend of strong residential values, and we do have that. We have wonderful residential neighborhoods, and yes, people find them very attractive, and as a result, the prices have gone up. But it's also important to balance that with well-planned, well-thought-out commercial development, commercial assessed valuation. And projects like the Whole Foods project, which we have seen mitigate traffic issues along Monroe Avenue, develop a couple more miles of good trails. When that project is completed, and it will be completed, will add significantly to the commercial assessed valuation of the town. And I hope and expect will also help surrounding commercial properties, particularly those across the street, by just enhancing the look and feel of that segment of Monroe Avenue. So that's where we're at on assessments. And I think those were the main questions you had. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the public hearing on the proposed 2022 preliminary budget? Are there any questions from members of the town board? And again, I will remind you that we will be holding another public hearing in 2 weeks. State law only requires one public hearing, but because we believe it's important to give the public as much of an opportunity to comment on the budget, we have these 2 public hearings as well as a whole series of open meetings and open committee meetings that have considered the budget or the capital improvement plan that's part of the budget over the past several months. Is there anyone else with any questions concerning the budget?
Yeah, I
Yes,
wanted
sir.
to,
Alexei.
I thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it. I'm against the reassessment process as it was done a few years ago because it disappropriately victimized the senior citizens and people on fixed incomes that have contributed to this community for decades. It really victimizes them far more than new people that come and overpay for homes. Let them fund these increases, but don't victimize our senior citizens.
I think what you're suggesting, and there's some merit to it, is that the property tax system can be an unfair and sometimes regressive system, particularly, as you say, for seniors. That's part of the reason why there are various senior tax credits that are built into the system. Our assessor is mandated by a variety of criteria set by the New York State Office of real property management, and therefore has to follow those guidelines in her assessments. We have, as I mentioned earlier, established certain guidelines as to timing of revaluations, because it is also unfair if properties are far above or far below what their actual fair market value is. Those people whose properties are drastically above fair market value may be paying more than their fair share, and others whose properties are assessed below may be paying less. So it's important to periodically true that up so you get back to as close to 100% of fair market value for all properties as possible. That's why we do the reval. There are problems with the system, no question about it. But I do believe that our assessor, not only the substance, but the outreach, and I will say the engagement with the community, and perhaps particularly with the senior community, has been very, very positive. I get extraordinary feedback about the customer service from the people in our assessor's office, and that's a credit to Sue Wentworth, our assessor. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on the budget, or are there any questions or comments from members of the town board?
Supervisor, I'm not a member of the town board, but I do want to let everybody know that our budget is posted on the website. It is under the finance department and annual budgets. There's several years worth of adopted budgets out there. Each part of our budget is sectioned off. There's about 7 or 8 sections, starting with the letter that the supervisor crafted when we presented the budget in late September. And it goes right on down through the schedules that we have, including all of the special districts. There's also a section on revenues and expenses. The detail is right down to the budget level. The only section that won't be, we also have our salary schedule section. All of these things are out on the website and have been since we presented at the end of September. Also, when after tonight, we usually do the presentation for the board, and after that is done, yes, that presentation would also be posted out on the website along with our budget.
Thank you, Paula. If there are no further questions or comments, then we'll close the public hearing on the proposed 2022 preliminary budget, again with the understanding that we will hold a second public hearing 2 weeks from tonight on October 27th. We'll move then to the proposed 2022 assessment rolls for service charges, maintenance charges, capital improvements, and sewer rent charges for special improvement districts. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, this was also in the September 30th edition of the Daily Record.
And I would note, as it was required a number of years ago by the New York State Court of Appeals, it was also published in the Recreation Department fall newsletter, which is sent to all property owners in the town consistent with that Court of Appeals decision. Legal notice having been given, I declare the proposed 2022 public hearing on assessment rolls for service charges, maintenance charges, capital improvements, and sewer rent charges for special improvement districts within the town to be open. Is there anyone that would like to address the board on this matter? Alexei, yes.
Yes, so I was curious about when a person with private trash service goes on vacation or goes away, there's a way to put their trash on vacation and not be charged for that trash pickup. I'm curious as to why there isn't a way to do that with this service that we are forced to pay for.
Well, first, let me take issue with your final statement, because nobody is forced. These special refuse districts are a function of a process under state law under which your neighbors, and you may not have lived there, you may not have signed, you may have signed, I don't know, but signed a petition asking the town to establish a refuse district. And the reason they did that is that the cost of refuse service when done through a refuse district is substantially less than it is for private carriers, more than 20% less than certainly what the waste management rack rate is. There are other carriers that may be cheaper, but the refuse district is the cheapest way to have your refuse picked up. Now, part of the reason for that is essentially the buying in bulk. Instead of hopscotching through a neighborhood, picking up 2 houses on this block and 1 on the next block and nobody on the next, everybody in the neighborhood is picked up. So the truck is able to pick up a lot of homes very quickly. You're right, there is not a procedure for having the price waived if you're away, but that is simply a matter of how refuse districts are structured in the state of New York, and overwhelmingly people in our neighborhoods have asked us to do these refuse districts, and that's the reason that so much of Brighton is getting their refuse service much cheaper than they would otherwise.
Thank you. I voted for one special district. I did not vote for the other, but I have to pay for both that I'm in. I kind of, I'm not sure if this is the right time for my question about the, on the agenda, there was an expense or a large expense for emergency tree care. I guess I would propose that that when town employees are out and about and they notice that a tree is in bad repair, that they either verbally communicate it to a supervisor, or they can themselves enter, this tree is in bad shape and maybe next year it needs to be taken down. But collecting that kind of information would allow the town to better budget for these expenses and not have a out of the blue $25,000 hit on the budget in 1 month. Thank you.
That's actually very much a part of what we do. Our staff does identify trees when they're out, but we also hear from community residents. What we've seen in the past several years is particularly the Elmwood ash borer has caused an increase in the number of trees that need to be taken down. And also those neighborhoods that we have that have silver maples. They are beautiful trees, but they are very brittle as they get older. We had one not long ago, a very, very large branch from a silver maple in the right-of-way come down on a calm day. Obviously at potential risk to anybody. Fortunately, nobody was under it. But these aren't really emergencies per se. These are trees that we do identify over time. We actually have a procedure in many cases where the town board reviews them based on an arborist report and makes a decision as to whether they do in fact need to come down. But what we have seen over time, largely for those 2 reasons, is that we are having to take down more trees, whether they're in right-of-way or whether they're in town parks. And that does come at an expense. Actually, one of the capital items that we have budgeted for the coming year will allow us to reduce some of our equipment rental expenditures over time. But still, we wind up with, as we expand our park system, as silver maples get bigger, and other conditions, yes, unfortunately, our forestry management program, which does include not only tree removal, it also includes trimming so that trees don't have to come down, and planting new trees so that we continue our green landscape through the town. Is there anyone else that would like to have any questions or comments concerning the proposed 22 assessment roles? Any members of the town board with any questions or concerns? Then hearing none, I declare this public hearing on the proposed 2022 assessment rolls for service charges, maintenance charges, capital improvements, and sewer rent charges for special improvement districts to be closed. And again, we will hold a second session of that public hearing at our next meeting on the 27th. Finally, we have a third public hearing, and I'll ask that it be opened, and then I'll have some discussion about it. A proposed local public hearing on a proposed local law to exceed the tax cap for the 2021 budget. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, this notice was also published in the Daily Record.
Thank you. So you might ask, why are we doing this public hearing? Because the budget is coming in under the tax cap. Yes, it is. The budget is coming in under the tax cap. And I do not anticipate that we will be exceeding the tax cap for 2021. However, we also have an extraordinary transaction this year, the transition of fire service from the West Brighton Fire Protection District to the Henrietta Fire District. That is something that our finance director, Paula Parker, has received guidance from the state, and the presentation of those items for budgetary purposes and for tax cap purposes is as was described by Paula Parker during her presentation. However, if something should happen or change, or if the state should decide they didn't give us good advice the first time, the consequences of inadvertently going over the tax cap would be very significant. And therefore, while, let me be clear, that this budget will not be exceeding the tax cap, both as in our finance director's calculation as well as mine, as a precaution and only as a precaution. The finance director and I recommend that we adopt this local law. Is there anyone that would like to address the board further in this matter? And again, Alexi, I see your hand up. Go ahead, please.
I want to express my disapproval, and I would not want the already large budget to increase even more. And I'm curious, if you're so confident about the budget not increasing, would you take the George Bush pledge of no new taxes, not increase taxes?
Let me try to explain that one more time, because I thought I was being very clear, but I will try to explain it one more time. The budget as it is presented, including the Henrietta Fire District transition, does not violate the tax cap. This budget does not go over the tax cap. In fact, it is more than $50,000 under the tax cap. That budget is based on guidance we've gotten from the state, and it's based on the expectation that on January 1st, that the Henrietta Fire District will take over service. If for some reason something changes, if the state decides to withdraw their guidance to us, we'll have to look at whether the budget is consistent with the tax cap. But we believe very strongly that it is. This local law does not change anything in the budget. As you saw, the tax cap, the tax levy on the the preliminary operating budget will go up about 1.5%. The tax rate on the special districts will go up about 2% at a time when personnel costs, which are 75% of our budget, are going to be going up again this year in excess of that 1.5% number, in a time when energy costs are going up dramatically and other raw material costs are going up dramatically. We have kept our tax increases well below the real cost impacts that we will face. And I do not believe that the budget as it is currently presented, based on guidance from the state comptroller and my finance director, we will not exceed the tax cap. This is a precaution, nothing more, nothing less. I believe, and I know the finance director and the town attorney believes, that we would be imprudent not to take this action. We would, sure. I mean, some might say it would be politically smart, but the risk of doing that, the risk of some external factor, the risk of the state changing their guidance to us, that would be foolish. And so I do recommend this local law, despite the fact that this budget does not exceed the tax cap. Paula, but you're muted.
If I could help, the state gave us a number of $1,543,460,000. If the state comes back and recalculates that number and lowers that number, say by $60,000, it will not change our budget at all. It won't change what you're going to raise in taxes. It won't change a single number in the budget. What it will change, however, is the tax cap calculation. In effect, it would actually decrease that calculation by $60,000, which might put us, $2,000 or $3,000 over the tax cap without touching a single number in our budget. That's why I felt strongly that we do this. It will not change our budget, but if the state changes their mind, it would put us in a predicament where we would end up the tax cap, and not having a local law in place could mean for 2023, we would have to reserve some money and utilize it towards that. Again, it won't change our budget at all, just the calculation of the tax cap.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the town board on this proposed local law? Any questions or comments from members of the board or staff? Hearing none, then I declare this public hearing to be closed, and I would ask for a motion to approve the proposed local law.
So
Bill, Jason.
Second, Chris.
Further discussion?
Just, Bill, this is Ken Gordon. Just to make sure that the motion made by Jason and seconded by Chris is a motion to adopt the resolution that they have before them.
In the form prepared by the town attorney. Yes, it is.
I move we adopt the resolution in the form prepared by the town attorney, yes.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mayo.
Aye. We have two items that ends our public hearings for the evening. We have two items of communications. Can I have a motion to receive and file those communications?
So moved, Robin.
Second, Christine.
Again, we have two items of communication. The first from Finance Director Paula Parker. advising us that Anna Bowles has resigned from the department. Anna worked for us for quite a number of years, and we wish her the very best. And the second item is from the first Deputy Commissioner of the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, or as folks would call it, DCJS, noting that, or appointing rather, our Chief of Police, David Cathaldi, to the New York State Committee for the Coordination of Police Services to Elderly Persons, and recognition of the quality of our police department, the leadership, and the rank and file members recognized by this appointment. Congratulations to you, Chief. Would you like to, anything you'd like to say about this committee?
No, I'm just happy to serve on it in some small way if I can. It's a great opportunity to help shape the training between law enforcement and help serve a vulnerable population of the elderly. You know that we have a very strong partnership with the Lifespan, which is located right here in Rochester. And I think it's just a great opportunity to help across New York State. I'm happy to serve on it.
Wonderful. Thank you. We have a motion to receive and file those communications. It's been seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Manley.
Aye. Committee reports, community services, Robin.
Thank you, Supervisor. The Community Services Committee has not met in the intervening time since our last town board meeting. I do, however, have some updates from our Parks and Recreation Department heads. From our Recreation Department, the Town of Brighton semi-annual recycling and secure document shredding event took place this past Saturday, October 9th. As usual, the event was a huge success and very well attended. According to our document shredding vendor, Eco Green Park, we had 13,040 pounds of paper collected, which is equal to 6.52 tons processed. And just for clarification, that translates into 111 trees saved, 45,640 gallons of water saved, 26,732 kilowatt hours of energy saved, 391 pounds of pollutants kept out of the atmosphere, 33 cubic yards of landfill saved, and that is for a total financial impact of $33,698.94 saved in environmental impact dollars. Although we have not received the full environmental impact report from Maven Technologies, we had more than 10 pallets of electronics collected, which translates into in excess of 10,000 pounds of recycled goods. And we look forward to the full report in the official certificate of recycling and destruction. I want to thank all members of the community who participated in the event and our stalwart volunteers from the town board, Council members Werner and Corrado, as well as myself and my family, and of course, Supervisor Maley. Finally, I want to give a shout out to Susan Hughes Smith, our consultant from Rocktricity and a member of the Color Brighton Green task force, also assisted in our efforts. So thank you to everybody involved. That's a tremendous amount of waste that was kept out of the landfills and instead put in the recycling bucket. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Robin, for organizing that event again this year.
Absolutely. In addition, our fall program registration is still in progress and open to both residents and non-residents. So please register early to secure your spot in our upcoming programs, as they are available on a first come, first served basis. As always, registration is available online at www.townofbrighton.org. So do check back frequently. Our program lineup is continually evolving and growing. As the supervisor mentioned, the Town of Brighton Community Center feasibility study is still available. There's still time to participate in our Town of Brighton Community Center survey. The link to the survey may be found on the town website. Paper surveys are also available at Brighton Town Hall, Brighton Memorial Library, Brighton Recreation, and other identified organizations. And we do invite and encourage all members of the Brighton community to participate in this important survey and provide us much needed input on realizing our recreational priorities. This year, we are reprising our drive-through trunk or treat. The Town of Brighton Recreation Department invites you to enjoy participating in our Tricked Out Trunks for Treat event from the safety of your car while also collecting treats. Participants are encouraged to wear costumes and decorate your car to get into the Halloween spirit. Safety comes first at this and all of our events, so participants must stay inside their vehicles at all times. Masks are encouraged for everyone. The health mask, not the face mask or the costume mask. The treats will be provided too. Right, those are also encouraged. Treats will be provided by the Town of Brighton. Start at the Public Safety Wing at Town Hall, which is at 2300 Elmwood Avenue, of course, and you exit at the library. The event will take place on Saturday, October 23rd, and runs from 3 to 4 p.m. while supplies last. To help us with planning, registration is encouraged but not required. Again, advanced registration does not guarantee treats, as the event is first come, first serve while supplies last. Please bring your own trick or treat bag for the children in your vehicle. And to participate as a tricked out trunk display, please see our Trick Out Your Trunk event sign up, say that 5 times fast, for more details and to register. Again, details are subject to change, so do stay tuned to the Recreation Department website, Facebook page, and your email for updates. As always, our Brighton Farmers Market is still in the throes of its extended summer season. It is outdoors at the Brighton High School parking lot from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. through November 21st. And then it will be available from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. from November 28th through December 19th. I want to remind everyone that the Town of Brighton Grab and Go Senior Meal Program is also ongoing. Brighton Seniors continues to provide grab and go style meals each week. This highly used service involves providing order ahead packaged meals that are available to seniors age 60 and over. Meal pickup is at the Brookside Recreation Center. So please contact us for full program details and to place your order. The number to call is 585-784-5260, extension 0. And also want to remind people that if you do have a program idea or a skill to share with the community, don't hesitate to contact the Brighton Recreation Department to find out how to be added as a program instructor. You can complete the new program proposal on our website or give us a call at 585-784-5260, extension 0. And then an update from our Parks Department. Lodges and shelters are still operating at full capacity. As seasonably colder weather arrives, park staff will be monitoring activity a bit closer to determine if any additional COVID-19 protocols will be needed for indoor gatherings. Park staff continue to be very busy with all aspects of park maintenance, including trails, grounds, facilities, play structures, fields, and court surfaces. They do continue to identify numerous new maintenance tasks and projects in each designated park and are compiling spreadsheets to help them tackle items based on urgency and priority as expressed by the community. And we're happy to say that staff was able to do some surface repair based on community feedback on the basketball and tennis courts over at Buckland Park. These surface repairs will stop existing cracks from getting worse over time. In the spring, the courts will be completely resurfaced and repainted as part of the 2022 capital improvement plan, providing a much needed improvement for Buckland Park. Youth sports continue to be in full swing until the end of October. Our parks have hosted 2 successful lacrosse tournaments over the past 2 weeks at Meridian Center Park, and by all reports, the events went very smoothly. Just a reminder that our outdoor park bathrooms and fields are slated to be closed for the season on October 31st this year. At this time, fields will be aerated and overseeded for a head start on spring maintenance. The next meeting of the Community Service Committee will be in person on Wednesday, October 20th at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside Recreation Center in the multipurpose room. As always, members of the public are invited to attend. We will be masking and adhering to occupancy standards. So if you do have an interest in attending, we ask that you contact our recreation department. And again, that number is 585-784-5260, extension 0, and let us know that you'll be joining us so that we can safely accommodate everyone. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Next, Finance and Administrative Services, Jason.
Yes, Bill, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee met on Tuesday, October 5th. Each of the items that were discussed in committee appear on tonight's agenda and will be discussed in further detail. In addition, we did have a discussion item regarding a dental insurance buy-up offer for non-represented employees of the town. In 2007, the town board adopted a resolution outlining the contribution amounts for health and dental insurance by the non-represented and elected employee groups. The resolution also allows the option of offering these groups to buy up to the enhanced dental plan. The cost of the buy-up would be 100% of the responsibility. 100% of the responsibility of the buy-up will be of the employee. And the reserve for this program, since the town is self-funded, is well positioned to make this offer with no significant impact. The Finance and Administrative Services Committee discussed this matter with Finance Director Paula Parker and concurs and authorizes the offering of this benefit to non-represented employees with no further board action per the December 27th, 2007 Town Board Resolution. In order to offer this buy-up option to the Teamsters bargaining unit, there must be an agreement or memorandum of understanding negotiated. The next meeting of the Finance and Administrative Services Committee will be on Tuesday, October 19th. We meet at 3:30 in the afternoon in the main auditorium of Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Thank you, Jason. Next, Public Safety Committee, Christine.
Public Safety Committee met yesterday morning at Town Hall. During open forum, we had a resident who presented concerns and observations about adequate and appropriate responses by public safety agencies, police, ambulance, et cetera, to mental health calls in Brighton and other communities. That is a concern nationwide, and I'm happy to say that Brighton is well educated and working towards the most appropriate responses. And there's more on that a little later in the report. Brighton Ambulance reported that for the calendar year of 2021 and in the month of September, they provided this update. A total of 674 requests for service throughout the month of September, with a total of 484 being within the Brighton Ambulance District. A total of 121 requests for mutual aid outside the district were received. The total Brighton Volunteer Ambulance requests for service up to September 30th is 4,225 requests, and that's an increase of 19.5% over 2020. The Code 32 reserve policy was applied 18 times in the month of September. And of those 18 occasions, Brighton Volunteer Ambulance staff were able to respond to 8 calls within the district that otherwise would have been assigned to mutual aid, showing an efficacy of 44%. Employment applications have increased and retention is holding at BVA. Like many agencies and many businesses around the country, finding qualified employees is challenging, but we highly encourage folks to explore careers in emergency services. Sadly, Assistant Chief Adem Evyapan has submitted his resignation effective November 1st, but BVA anticipates minimal disruption within the training department. Brighton Fire Department reports 1,727 calls for September, nothing of significance. I'm sorry, if it's September or year to date, and I apologize for not being clear on that. It will be reflected appropriately in the revised minutes. This Sunday at the Brighton Farmers Market, the Brighton Fire Department will be hosting activities in place of their regular open house activities. It allows them to be in open air and closer to where all the excitement is in town on Sunday mornings. Again, encouraging folks to explore careers in public safety, in emergency services. Brighton Fire Department is hosting a prospective members information session next Monday, October 18th at Station 1. That's the station at Elmwood and East Avenue at 7 p.m. I highly encourage folks to attend. Even if you don't think you want a career in firefighting, it's so informational. It is insight into the safety services provided by our fire department. And who knows, you may find out you want to run towards fire instead of away from it, after all. Brighton Public Works reports that concrete gutters are being installed on Ashburn and Hillside yesterday. So neighbors there should see work completed. The intersection reconstruction project should be completed by the end of October, weather permitting. The town will also be paving Templeton Road, and that paving project should be completed by the end of October, again, weather permitting. DPW is requesting stop signs to be installed on north and south legs of Templeton Road at the Claiborne intersection. And additionally, DPW will be requesting to reduce the speed limit on Roland Parkway to 25 miles an hour. Those will be before the board soon. Leaf pickup begins on October 18th next week. I'm certain that the supervisor will have much to say about how to do that appropriately. And on a note about community mindedness and patience, town highway crews have experienced more conflicts recently with drivers disobeying traffic control direction when they are on debris pickup duty. It's a complex process. It's one that we are very lucky to have in Brighton, taking yard debris away from our yards and to the town facilities. Not every community in the area has that service. So a little bit of patience, especially considering safety concerns, patience on the part of drivers around that operation is warranted. A few extra seconds waiting for some very large vehicles will go a long way to preserving that service in town and preserving safety for all. Brighton Police Department did not have statistics to report for the month. Their computer system was down briefly as far as tallying, but the chief may have numbers tonight. And if not, we'll hear about them the next time we meet. There was extended discussion on the review of mental health and interaction with Brighton Ambulance. The department, both agencies work to ensure that that responses are appropriate and that the appropriate agency is present, particularly in cases when it might otherwise tie up a Brighton Ambulance rig. There was also discussion and review of potential transport alternatives for mental health related responses to assist or reduce the amount of time a response rig could be waiting to transfer care at a particular facility. So there's a lot of very positive, coordinated interaction amongst the agencies trying to find the most appropriate responses and seek the greatest efficiencies. There was no report from the Rochester Fire Department. We anticipate we'll hear from them next month. One matter of new business, a resident is seeking a deaf child sign in the Virginia Colony neighborhood. Typically, when a resident has a deaf child, they can request such a sign to be installed in the area at the request of the parents. It is likely to be posted at the entrance to the neighborhood. It remains until the child reaches the age of 18 or moves from the neighborhood. And Commissioner Guyon will be reviewing the specifics of the national signage standards before placing that sign. But a reminder to community members, if you have a deaf child and you are concerned about traffic safety for that child, you can bring that request to the Public Safety Committee and it will be considered and acted on. Supervisor Maley provided an update on the West Brighton Fire Protection District, and it was the same update he provided at the top of this meeting. So do you want to add anything further about that? The West Brighton Fire District?
I think we covered it.
All right, very good. And that covered the meeting. The next public safety meeting is Tuesday, November 9th at 8 a.m. in the auditorium at Town Hall. Matters of public safety can be brought to my attention or the attention of any members of the committee for inclusion on the agenda, but advance submission is not required. You don't need to be present for the matter to be addressed either, although the public, including young members of the public, are absolutely welcome and encouraged to attend, of course, following COVID safe practices. For more information, you can see the website townofbrighton.org/public safety committee for contacts and agendas and minutes. And that is all.
Thanks, Christine. And we'll end with the Public Works Committee. Chris.
Thanks, Bill. The Public Works Committee met on the Tuesday, October 5th at 9:00 a.m. Rob Richardson appeared from the state to discuss the New York State stretch code and to answer questions that we had, and the code would provide for various energy savings and climate sensitive treatments for new construction. Generally, there were a number of questions that were posed to him, and that there's going to have to be some additional research done by Rob, and the town as well will be forming an internal committee to review what seems to be appropriate for Brighton. Some of the issues that seem to be need to be addressed were training for the design professionals and builders within the town, but more importantly, the training available for our own town staff, which is going to be quite extensive. As I said, an internal committee is being formed to consider the code, and progress will be reported at the next meetings. The committee also discussed implementing the unified solar permit application. The town considered this application, it has considered such an application in the past, and it requires architectural review board review for solar applications and does not allow ground and or building mounted solar arrays, both of which are in conflict with the unified permit. We discussed the Ashbourne intersection update, as Christine also mentioned, and it's hoped that that will be completed by the end of October. The town hall renovation request for proposal is due on October 24th, and a bidder site investigation is scheduled for October 14th. The November Public Works Committee meeting date was discussed, and because of a potential conflict with Election Day, we're moving it to follow on after the Public Safety Committee meeting at approximately 9 o'clock, the Public Safety meeting beginning at 8. We also discussed the Historic Preservation Code amendments and the committee's requests that there be an amendment to waive their review of generators, air conditioning units, and improvements not attached to the historic structure. We just noted that leaf pickup starts on the 18th. We also discussed the Templeton stop sign, as Christine mentioned, and Rowland Park speed reductions to 25 miles an hour, which is in the Council Rock School area. Also, the Summit Circle Sanitary Sewer District was discussed to include a particular property at 155 Summit Drive and a property along Highland Avenue. The public sewer will be extended west along the north side of Highland to serve these properties. Also, there was a discussion of a dead ash tree on Hollywood Avenue that needs to be removed and replaced, and some discussion of whether or not that tree actually had been treated. And the staff is going to report back to us on that as well. Next meeting, as indicated, will be November 9th, and will immediately follow the Public Safety Committee meeting. The Public Safety Committee meeting starting at 8, and we traditionally start around 9, which should work well. That's it.
Thanks, Chris. Since we're talking about public works, I'd just like to, there's been some concern and always very understandable concern about some streetlight outages in the 12 Corners area. And I have been in communication with our government relations representative at RG&E. And she was aware that we had this meeting coming up tonight and wanted to get me an update. She has already advised me that there is a new contractor working with RG&E on the street lighting work, and transitions can be challenging. But I want to read, because she texted this to me just before tonight's meeting, and I want to read it verbatim, frankly, so I don't misconstrue what she has said. And I will post this as well on a couple of the neighborhood Facebook groups where we've heard something about this, but let me read this again verbatim. Here is the status update on the street light and circuit outages received from our operations manager, and that's RG&E's operations manager. Crews were sent out to numerous locations in the past couple of weeks, sometimes multiple crews, and there was a crew out working on the circuit right now as we speak. Multiple faults have been identified on the circuit. It is the largest of the ARC circuits. The crew is working on isolating a fault on one circuit and looking to have half of that circuit back up and running on Torrington. We will continue to send crews out until the issue is repaired. Again, on behalf of RG&E, I apologize profusely for the time it has taken to repair the circuits and corresponding streetlights. I will continue to seek updates on the progress the crews are making and keep you apprised. Please let me know if you have any other questions at this point. Thank you. And I appreciate her recognition that this has been problematic for our residents, their apology. It's very important that these streetlights be restored. One of the reasons that we are so I don't want to say hell-bent, but we really want to see this project. We've been talking about it for years, back when we talked about buying the system. We do know that RG&E is going to be beginning to convert the infrastructure of the street lighting system here in the town of Brighton to allow LED street lights. Right now, the current infrastructure is quite antiquated, and in most neighborhoods, it can't do it. They're actually testing a couple of different light fixtures right now in the homemakers neighborhood, and they want to see how those two different bulbs perform under real world conditions. so they can consider which, if either, to use as they go out with their infrastructure upgrade to permit LED lighting. They had hoped that was going to begin. I'm not quite sure why it hasn't. I'm going to guess that COVID has something to do with it. But I do hope, and they will be keeping us advised, because this is a very high priority for us, that work beginning to upgrade the town's streetlight infrastructure, we hope will begin next year, starting in the Struckmar neighborhood. So more to follow, but I do appreciate that response from RG&E. That's all we have on our committee reports. We will move on then to new business. Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, Bill. Earlier today, I reviewed claims totaling $494,997.70. Notable claims include to the Depository Trust Company, the amount of $87,325, representing payment of the 2015 B serial bond, of which $85,000 was principal, for the Operations Center alarm, roof, and windows, library HVAC, public safety wing roof replacement projects. Also to Iroquois Rock Products, the amount of $42,603.91, representing payment for materials for payment for paving, on Knoll Top Drive and Elmore Road. Also to Monroe County, the amount of $10,125.26, representing payment for annual Stormwater Coalition membership dues. Also to Scanex Pipe Services, in the amount of $23,910, representing payment for sanitary sewer rehabilitation for Merlin Drive per board awarded contracted pricing. And finally, to Villager Construction in the amount of $12,380, representing payment for milling services for Blossom Circle, Fairfield Drive, and Elmore Road. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second, Robin.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Next, we have 4 appointments or promotions within the police department, and I'm going to ask Councilmember Corrado to address them individually, but I think together what you see is the continued response to some recent retirements and promotions and the necessary backfilling that occurs after you do have those retirements. So I'll let Christine start with the first appointment resolution.
Yes, this matter seeks to approve the appointment of David H. Kiersbilk Jr. to the position of police officer in the Brighton Police Department. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Chief, anything you'd like to say about
No, just
our first candidate?
Sure. Mr. Kiersbeck comes from the Ontario County Sheriff's Department. He served there 2.5 years. He's got a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of Buffalo. He comes to us crisis intervention team trained. He's met all the testing requirements and civil service requirements, and he's eligible to transfer. And with your approval, we'd like to get him started as soon as possible.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the appointment? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. And the promotion of Rebecca Halpin.
Yes, the next matter seeks to approve the promotion of Rebecca Halpin from police officer to police sergeant in the Brighton Police Department. I move that we adopt this resolution before us.
Can I have a
Second,
second?
Robin.
Thank you, Rob. We have three of them. You can talk about all three of them at once if you like, Chief, or however you want to handle it.
Sure. So it is historic times. We are promoting quite a few sergeants now. The first one, Rebecca Halpin, she has a master's degree in business administration from the University of Niagara. She did her undergraduate work at Niagara as well and graduated magna cum laude. She's been with us 3.5 years. She scored a 94 on the civil service exam, coming out number 2 on the list. She's an evidence technician for us. She teaches there. She's been a valuable asset to us, and I expect great things out of her in the years to come. If you want, I can go right down the list and talk about the other ones.
Sure. Yeah.
The next one on the list is Officer Bradley Clouston. He scored a 93 on the list. He came to us from Seneca Falls as a transfer. He did 4.5 years there. He's been here in Brighton for 3.5 years. He has a BS in management from St. John Fisher College. He's received 2 police awards for us. He's an evidence technician as well. He's also involved with our training unit. So it makes him a pretty well-rounded officer, and I think he'll be able to make a smooth transition to the position of sergeant. Lastly, but not least, Officer Justin Keller. He scored a 92 on the exam. And as you can see, I'm telling you that these candidates are scoring in the 90s. Historically, looking back, we score usually top in the county when it comes to sergeants and lieutenants promotion. They prepare the candidates prepare really hard for the exam. And it's just one portion that we look at. We look at their work performance, their interview skills. They're all interviewed by command level officers here. So he's been with us for 13 years. He has a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice from Brockport. He has 2 police service awards. He's currently an FTO for us. He's also well-rounded. He's going to bring some experience from the patrol service and being a sergeant. And again, I look forward for many years of service from Justin.
Thank you, Chief. I mean, for those of us that know these officers, we know the kind of people they are, but you look at the numbers, you look at the experience, the degrees in some cases, including masters, their scores. You continue to identify and promote the very highest quality police officers, and that really is a credit. These will be frontline supervisors, maybe as important as anybody in the department, having sergeants who can do their jobs well. So I think the work that you've been doing in maintaining the quality of the people, and then layering on top of that with the quality of the training, the quality of the equipment, including the body camera program, is why our department continues to be second to none. Kudos. And by the way, I had to look because I didn't want you to feel slighted. Somebody earlier suggested that this was Police Week. Actually, National Police Week is in May. So I know we've recognized the police department during National Police Week. We'll do it again. And we do love the police department 12 months of the year. So we have a motion on the promotion first of Rebecca Halpin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mailing.
Aye. And Christine, can I have a motion on Bradley Clouston?
Of course, the next matter seeks to approve the promotion of Bradley Clouston from police officer to police sergeant in the Brighton Police Department. Again, I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second, Jason.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mailing.
Aye. And Justin Keller's promotion.
And the last one, the last matter before us in this batch is seeking to approve the promotion of Justin Keller from police officer to police sergeant in the Brighton Police Department. And I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second, Chris.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Chris, if you'd handle the next one, please.
Yes, Bill. The next item is to authorize the supervisor to amend the contract with Stantec for a traffic impact study for the University of Rochester South Campus institutional plan development for an amount not to exceed $15,806, and to receive and file a letter from John Hartley to Mike Guyon regarding the study dated August 31, 2021. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Can I have a second?
Second, Jason.
And I would just note that that $15,806 will be fully, in fact, already has been fully paid by the University of Rochester. Further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Jason, the next one, please.
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize a budget amendment to transfer $25,000 to the tree landscaping services account for emergency tree removal services. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second, Robin.
We discussed this a little bit earlier. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Robin.
Certainly. The next matter seeks to authorize arboriculture training for 3 employees in an amount not to exceed $589. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second, Christine.
Little training for Mike himself and 2 other employees, again, all related to our tree work. Any further discussion? Set forth there in the letter, all the details. Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Chris. Oh, you're muted.
Yep.
Wouldn't be a Zoom meeting without one of those.
Yeah, without one of those, yes, I'm very sorry. The next item is to set a public hearing for a proposed tree removal at 58 Terrytown Road. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Can I have a second, please?
Second, Jason.
Any discussion on this one? Mike, do you want to talk briefly about why this tree is being
Yeah,
proposed to
real
be
briefly,
taken down?
it's one of the silver maples you talked about earlier, Supervisor. It's a big tree. If you've seen the tree report, you can see it's in terrible shape. It is 36 inches in diameter, which classifies it as a significant tree. Therefore, we have the tree law indicates that we need to hold a public hearing to seek input on its removal.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Christine.
Sure. The next matter seeks to set a public hearing for a proposed traffic control signage along Templeton Road at the intersection with Claiborne Road. That public hearing would be set for November 10th. I move that we set that public hearing on November 10th to adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second, Robin. Sorry.
No, probably is fine.
Any discussion?
Supervisor, if I could, this is Ken Gordon, town attorney. Just a note for the town board, in the town code for these stop signs, we generally specify a direction of travel, sometimes north, sometimes south, sometimes both. And so as drafted, the local law doesn't include that direction of travel. So when we do go to adopt it in November, you'll be seeing a slightly modified local law that's going to specify the direction of travel is both for the Templeton Road traffic signs.
Thanks, Ken. You will see where those proposed locations are in the correspondence, but yes, it's good, good to have them included in the actual law itself. Any further comment, discussion on that matter? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Christine, why don't you do this next one as well?
Sure. The next matter seeks to set a public hearing also on November 10th for proposed speed limit reduction along Roland Parkway from Clover Street to the cul-de-sac. I move that we set a public hearing on November 10th to adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Chris.
Thank you, Chris. We looked at these two streets, Roland and Babcock. Babcock was already 25, but Roland was not. So Roland will now be at 25, assuming this goes through the public hearing. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Robin, why don't you handle the last one here?
Certainly. The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to amend the mitigation agreement with the MCC Association for the acceptance of $150,000 from said agency. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
As you see in the resolution, this matter arises out of the mitigation agreement that was entered into with the MCC Association back when this particular dorm was built. As a result of the planned transition to the Henrietta Fire District, we wanted to make sure that all outstanding issues under this mitigation agreement were resolved, and kudos to Paula Parker, Finance Director, who's been working with her counterpart at the MCC Association. And this is a resolution of all payments required to be made through the end of 2021 on that agreement. It contemplates, and the original agreement contemplates, that the mitigation agreement will be renegotiated with the Henrietta Fire District as they take over fire service in the area. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, well, we've talked about it briefly twice. I'll talk about it a third time. Leaf pickup. Leaf pickup begins on Monday. Of course, we're still doing the lawn and garden debris pickup, but leaf pickup begins on Monday. Just like with lawn and garden debris, we do encourage, if you only have a few leaves, if you containerize them. Now I realize, who has only a few leaves? So most of the leaves come down and they're in bulk. So please remember, don't pile them in the street. I'm already seeing piles in the street. It's really important. Please pile them on your lawn, either on the tree lawn between the sidewalk and the street, or if you don't have a sidewalk, on the grass adjacent to where the street is. If they're in the street, they become a hazard to drivers, to bicyclists, and to little children that like to play in leaf piles. They can also clog storm drains. All sorts of bad things can happen when you pile your leaves in the street. So please don't do it. Please pile them on your lawn. You saw our crews get around town much faster this summer. I think we're going to see that continue. So we will get to your leaves, and we will keep picking them up and keep picking them up. The last few years, we've been picking them up right through about the end of the year. No reason to think that won't change this year. The leaves seem to fall later and later. So don't worry, it will snow eventually. That doesn't mean we're done. We're going to keep picking those darn leaves up, right, Mike? You wonder why Mike doesn't have a lot of hair up there? It's those darn leaves. If you want to know when we're going to be in your neighborhood, go to the town's webpage. Right there on the splash page, there's a link to our maps, both for bulk pickup and for containerized pickup. You can see where your neighborhood is and know how much time you have to rake your leaves up before they'll be picked up. One final reminder, for a little bit longer, we'll still be mowing lawns. We don't pick up grass clippings under any conditions. We don't pick up grass clippings. So please don't mix them in with your leaves. Don't put them in bags. Leave them on your lawn. They'll mulch, they'll improve the quality of your lawn, and keep the community greener, keep the landfill. The real reason is so our landfill doesn't fill up as quickly. That's all I have tonight. Matters of the town attorney. Ken.
No, I do not have anything this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Matters of the town clerk. Dan.
Nothing this evening.
Matters of the board. Then if there's nothing, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second, Chris.
Dan, please call the roll on that motion to adjourn.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Thank you, everybody that hung in with us tonight. Our next meeting will be 2 weeks from tonight, October 27th, 7 a.m. No, it won't be 7 p.m. Thank goodness. There isn't enough coffee to do this at 7 a.m. We'll be at 7 p.m. 2 weeks from tonight on Zoom. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you and good night.
Good night.